The great crystal chamber floated in the darkness of space, its walls shining with the light of 1,000 stars. Inside, representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their assigned places. Each species had their own section, marked by symbols that had been old when Earth was young. At the center of the chamber, 3 humans stood alone. Captain Min Jae-sung kept his back straight as he faced the council. Behind him stood Dr. Sarah Chen and Admiral Park Ki-woon. They were the last representatives of humanity in this place. The air felt heavy with judgment, and the silence stretched like a blade ready to fall. Archon Veltar rose from his throne. His blue skin seemed to glow in the chamber's light, and his 4 arms moved with perfect grace. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the room. "We are gathered here to decide the fate of the species called humanity," he said. "They stand accused of crimes against galactic order. They have acted without permission. They have broken our laws. They have put emotion before logic." Min watched the Archon's face. There was no anger there, only cold certainty. This was not a trial. It was a ceremony. The decision had already been made. "The first charge," Veltar continued, "is the rescue of the Kethmari people. When we ordered their extinction for the good of galactic stability, humanity interfered. They moved an entire population to safety, defying our will." Min remembered the Kethmari children. Their large eyes had been full of fear as the council ships approached their world. The council had called them a threat because they could not be controlled. Humanity had called them people who deserve to live. The second charge is sharing forbidden technology. Humanity gave starflight to 7 primitive species without council approval. They did this knowing it would upset the balance of power we have maintained for thousands of years. Dr. Chen shifted slightly behind him. She had been the one to design the simple engines that let those species reach the stars. Min had seen the joy on their faces when they took their first steps into space. The council had seen only chaos. "The third charge is the most serious," the Archon said. "Humanity consistently chooses feeling over reason. They act on impulse rather than careful thought. They save enemies and question friends. They are unpredictable, and unpredictability is the enemy of peace." Around the chamber, other species nodded their agreement. The tall, thin Zephanin, with their silver skin, the rock-like Gorthani, who moved so slowly, the energy beings called the Lumina, who flickered like candle flames. All of them agreed that humanity was the problem. Ambassador Thulmos of the Velkan rose to speak. His people had been humanity's closest allies for 50 years. Min felt a spark of hope. "The humans have served alongside us in many conflicts," Thulmos said carefully. "They have shown bravery and skill." "But do you defend their actions?" Veltar asked. Thulmos looked at Min for a long moment. Then he looked away. "No, Archon. I cannot defend what they have done." The hope in Min's chest died. Even their friends would not stand with them now. "Then it is decided," Veltar announced. "Humanity is too dangerous to remain in civilized space. We cannot execute them, for that would make us no better than those we condemn. Instead, we offer them a choice. Leave willingly, or be forced to leave." "Where would we go?" Min asked. His voice was steady, though his heart was racing. "The void," Veltar said simply. A gasp went around the chamber. The void was death. Everyone knew this. It was a region of space where dark storms raged without end, where gravity bent in impossible ways, where ancient machines destroyed anything that came too close. Ships that entered the void were never seen again. "You are sending us to die," Admiral Park said quietly. "We are giving you a chance to prove that humanity can survive where others cannot," Veltar replied. "If you are as adaptable as you claim, perhaps you will find a way." Min knew the truth. This was execution with extra steps. The council wanted to be able to say they had been merciful. They could tell themselves they had given humanity a chance, even though that chance was no chance at all. "We will need ships," Min said. "Food, medical supplies. You will have basic transport vessels and enough supplies for 6 months," Veltar agreed. "After that, you are on your own." The other humans had arrived 3 days ago. Military families, scientists, engineers, teachers, children. 47,000 people in total. All of them would go into the void together. All of them would probably die together. "Do you accept this judgment?" Veltar asked. Min looked around the chamber one more time. At the faces that watched him, with relief and satisfaction. At Thulmos, who still would not meet his eyes. At the empty seats where human representatives had once sat as equals. "We accept," he said. The next day, they gathered at the edge of council space. 50 transport ships hung in the darkness, loaded with everything humanity could carry. The ships were old and slow, designed for moving cargo, not for fighting the storms they would soon face. Min stood on the bridge of the lead ship and watched as council vessels took their positions around the human fleet. They would escort them to the void's edge, making sure they actually left. Making sure they could never come back. "All ships report ready," Admiral Park said from his station. "Signal the fleet," Min ordered. "We go dark once we enter the void. No communications with council space. No signals at all." "Sir," Dr. Chen asked, "what if we find a way to survive? What if we can actually make it work?" Min watched the void growing larger ahead of them. It looked like a wound in space itself, dark and swirling, and full of lightning that was not lightning. Ancient warnings marked its borders in a dozen languages, all saying the same thing. "Death waits here. Then we survive quietly," he said. "And we remember who our friends really are." The council ships stopped at the warning markers. The human fleet continued forward, into the storm. As they crossed the boundary, their ships vanished from all sensors, swallowed by the chaos of the void. Behind them, the council fleet turned and flew home, their duty done. The human problem had been solved. In the swirling darkness ahead, Captain Min Jae-sung watched his scanner screens fill with warnings and errors. Then, he smiled. "Let's see what's really in here," he said. 6 months had passed since the human fleet entered the void. The ships floated in the shadow of a dead star, hidden from the worst of the storms that raged around them. Most of the fleet showed damage from their journey into this place. Hull plates were bent, engines ran rough, and the medical bay was always full. But they were alive. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what used to be the main lab on the research ship. Now it was 3 times larger, expanded with materials salvaged from damaged sections of other vessels. Charts and data screens covered every wall, showing the patterns she had discovered in the chaos. "The storms follow rules," she explained to Captain Min as he toured the facility. "They look random, but they're not. Every 17 hours, the main current shifts. Every 4 days, the lightning stops for exactly 23 minutes. Min studied the displays. The void's dark matter storms had destroyed 2 of their ships in the first week. They had seemed completely unpredictable then. Now, he could see the patterns Sarah had found. "How did you figure this out?" he asked. "I watched," she said simply. "For 3 months, I did nothing but watch and record. The void isn't trying to kill us. It's just wild. Like a river in flood. If you know where the current goes, you can use it instead of fighting it." Across the fleet, similar discoveries were happening. Engineer Liu Wei had found something even more important. He led Min to the mining ship, where his team had been studying the strange energy that filled the void. "Look at this," Liu said, pointing to a container filled with what looked like black lightning. "Dark matter in its pure form. 1 gram of this stuff has more energy than our main reactor produces in a week." "Is it safe?" Min asked. "Safe enough?" Liu replied with a grin. "We've learned to contain it using magnetic fields. The trick is not to fight the energy, but to guide it. Like Sarah says about the storms, work with it, not against it. He showed Min the prototype collector they had built. It looked like a flower, made of metal and crystal, with petals that opened and closed in rhythm with the dark matter flows around them. When it was working, it pulled energy directly from the void itself. We can power the entire fleet with 3 of these, Liu explained. And I think we can make them much bigger. Admiral Park had been working on different problems. He led Min to the command ship's new war room, where tactical displays showed every threat they had mapped in their local area. The automated defenses are the real problem, Park said, highlighting red zones on the display. Ancient weapons platforms that attack anything they detect. We've lost 6 probes trying to map their positions. Can we destroy them? Min asked. Maybe. But I have a better idea, Park said. Liu's energy collectors don't just gather power. They also generate a specific type of signal. I think it's a recognition code. The weapons platforms leave us alone when the collectors are running. Min stared at the display. You think the collectors are sending some kind of password? I think whoever built those weapons platforms also built the technology we're learning to use, Park replied. We're not just hiding from the Void's defenses. We're inheriting them. The changes went deeper than technology. Dr. Chen had discovered that the Void's radiation was affecting the humans themselves. Not harming them, but changing them in subtle ways. Faster reflexes, she explained as she showed Min the medical reports. Better coordination. Enhanced ability to sense gravity changes. The children born here are even more adapted than we are. Min met some of these children in the fleet's school. They played games that involved moving through shifting gravity fields like they were swimming through water. They could sense the approach of dark matter storms minutes before the instruments detected them. They were still human, but they were something new as well. The first permanent structure was built 8 months after their arrival. Admiral Park chose the location, an asteroid that naturally deflected the Void's worst energies. Liu Wei designed the power systems that let it feed on the surrounding chaos. Dr. Chen planned the life support systems that could handle the strange environment. The base grew quickly. Salvaged materials from damaged ships became the walls. Dark matter collectors provided unlimited power. The ancient weapon platforms ignored them completely, apparently recognizing their energy signature as friendly. We're not just surviving, Min realized as he stood in the new base's observation deck. Outside, the void raged with storms that could tear apart planets. Inside, children played in rooms filled with warm light and clean air. We're thriving. The Council sent probes sometimes, automated scouts that tried to penetrate the void and see what had happened to the human fleet. The ancient defenses destroyed them long before they could reach the human settlements. To the outside galaxy, it looked like the void was still empty except for death. Min made the decision to keep it that way. No communications with Council space, he ordered. No signals that might be detected. As far as they know, we're all dead. Why? Dr. Chen asked. If they knew what we've accomplished here, they might try to take it, Min finished. Or destroy it. Or find some new reason why we're too dangerous to exist. A year passed. Then 2. The human settlements in the void grew into small cities. They learned to build structures that existed in stable pockets of normal space-time, surrounded by walls of controlled chaos. They developed technology that could manipulate gravity itself, turning the void's most dangerous feature into their greatest tool. Children who had never seen normal space grew up thinking it was perfectly natural to step through doorways that led across impossible distances. Engineers designed ships that could travel instantly through dimensional shortcuts. Scientists unlocked secrets of physics that the Council's greatest minds had never imagined. The void was still dangerous to outsiders. Automated probes from the Council were still destroyed before they could report anything useful. But for humanity, it had become something else entirely. It had become home. Min stood in his office in the main city, watching displays that showed the progress of construction across their territory. New settlements were growing in what had once been empty death. Energy collectors the size of space stations gathered power from storms that could fuel entire civilizations. A communication from Admiral Park appeared on his screen. "The third city is ready for population," Park reported. "And I've got plans for defensive platforms that will make this place impossible to attack. We're not just hiding anymore, Min. We're building something that could defend itself against anything." Min nodded. They had turned their exile into opportunity, their prison into a fortress. The Council had wanted them gone, and they were gone. But they weren't dead. They were becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. "Keep building," Min replied. "And keep watching. Someday, the Council might remember we exist. When they do, I want us to be ready." Outside his window, the void storms danced with colors that had no names. Inside their cities, 47,000 humans lived and worked and planned for a future the Council could never have imagined. They had been thrown away. Now, they were something else entirely. 5 years had passed since humanity entered the void. What had once been empty space filled with deadly storms now held something that defied belief. Cities floated, in perfect stability, where no cities should exist. Bridges made of pure energy connected settlements across impossible distances. The dark matter that had once threatened to tear apart any vessel now powered a civilization that surpassed anything in the known galaxy. Marshal Min Jae-sung stood on the observation deck of the Bastion, the massive fortress city that served as humanity's capital. The title of Captain had been left behind with the old world. Here in the void, he was something new, just as they all were. Through the reinforced windows, he watched the construction of humanity's latest achievement. A space dock, large enough to build ships the size of mountains, was taking shape in the controlled chaos of a gravity well. Workers moved through the structure wearing suits that let them ignore the twisted physics of their environment. "The new destroyer will be ready for testing next week," Admiral Park reported as he joined Min at the window. "It can travel instantly through dimensional folds and carries enough firepower to level a planet." "How many do we have now?" Min asked. 12 capital ships, 47 destroyers, and more than 300 scout vessels," Park replied. "All of them invisible to Council sensors. All of them capable of going anywhere in the galaxy without being detected." Min nodded. They had built this fleet not for conquest, but for protection. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. Someday, they might need to defend themselves or others. Dr. Sarah Chen arrived with her daily report. Her research teams had made discoveries that would have seemed like magic to the Council's scientists. They had learned to manipulate gravity like a tool, creating areas of normal space within the void's chaos. They had developed medical technology using void radiation that could heal almost any injury and extend human life indefinitely. "The adaptation program is showing remarkable results," she reported. "The children born here are developing abilities we never expected. Enhanced spatial awareness, natural resistance to radiation, and something we're calling dimensional sensitivity." "What does that mean?" Min asked. "They can sense things that exist in folded space," Chen explained. "Threats that are hidden in other dimensions. Objects that are out of phase with normal reality. It's like they have a completely new sense that we're only beginning to understand." Min had met these children. They played games that involved stepping through doorways into pocket dimensions. They could navigate the void's twisted geography as easily as walking through a park. They were still human, but they were also something unprecedented. Engineer Liu Wei's teams had turned the void into humanity's greatest industrial resource. Massive collectors harvested energy directly from the dark matter storms. Manufacturing facilities built from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at once created technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "We're not just building ships and cities," Liu explained as he showed Min through the newest facility. We're building the tools to reshape space itself. With enough power, we can create stable regions wherever we need them. Turn hostile environments into livable ones. Make the impossible routine. Oh nah. Why? Make the impossible routine. The true scope of human achievement became clear when Min reviewed Admiral Park's latest strategic assessment. They had not simply survived in the void, they had conquered it completely. Every ancient weapon platform in this region is now under our control, Park explained. We've reverse-engineered their technology and improved it. Any hostile force trying to enter our territory would face defenses that could destroy entire fleets. The weapons were subtle, hiding in the void's natural chaos until activated. To outside observers, it would appear that the void itself was fighting back against intruders. No one would suspect that humans had turned the galaxy's most dangerous region into an impregnable fortress. What about beyond our borders? Min asked. We've been watching, Park replied, activating a display that showed the surrounding sectors of space. Council activity has been increasing near our territory. They're not looking for us specifically, but they're expanding their patrol routes. Min studied the data. The Council had grown more aggressive in recent years, demanding stricter obedience from member species and punishing those who showed too much independence. Several civilizations had been forced to relocate or disband entirely. They're afraid of something, Min realized. Or they're preparing for something, Park agreed. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures from the galactic core. Something is moving out there. Something big. The monitoring station in the outer void had been watching Council space for 3 years now. Its stealth technology made it completely invisible, while its sensors could detect events happening hundreds of light-years away. The data it gathered painted a picture of a galaxy growing more unstable with each passing month. Commander Lee So-young, one of the Void-born generation, ran the station with a team of specialists who had never known any home but the chaos of dark space. She reported directly to Min through quantum-encrypted channels that the Council couldn't detect or intercept. There have been 12 major conflicts in Council space this year, she reported during their weekly briefing. 3 species have been completely relocated. The Zephnin are building their military forces beyond anything seen in recent history. Do they know we're here? Min asked. No direct evidence, Lee replied. But some of their deep space scans are getting closer to our territory. It's possible they suspect something survived in the void. Lee. Min made a decision that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Prepare contingency plans, he ordered. If the Council discovers us, I want options. Defense, evacuation, and if necessary, intervention. Intervention? Park asked. If they threaten other species the way they threatened us, Min explained, we might need to act. Quietly, carefully, but effectively. The void had given humanity more than survival. It had given them power on a scale that dwarfed anything in Council space. Ships that could appear anywhere instantly. Weapons that could level planets. Defenses that could stop entire fleets. Technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than rules. But with that power came responsibility. They had been cast out for helping others when the Council said no. That nature hadn't changed, even if everything else had. We stay hidden, Min decided. We keep building. We keep watching. And if the galaxy needs protecting from something the Council can't handle, we'll be ready. The bastion continued to grow, its towers reaching up into the chaotic energies of the void, while its foundations extended down into pocket dimensions that existed only because human will and technology made them real. It was a city that could house millions, powered by the very forces that had been meant to destroy them. Children born in the void walked through its corridors, learning to manipulate gravity and energy as naturally as breathing. Scientists unlocked secrets that had been hidden in the chaos for billions of years. Engineers built machines that could create new forms of matter and space. And in the deepest chambers of the bastion, Marshal Min Jae-sung maintained detailed files on every species in Council space, not out of anger or thoughts of revenge, but from understanding that knowledge was power, and power was responsibility. The galaxy had cast them out to die. Instead, they had become its silent guardians, watching from the shadows and preparing for the day when that watch might become something more. In the swirling chaos of the void, 47,000 humans had become something the universe had never seen before. They were no longer the species that had been banished. They were the inheritors of ancient powers, the masters of impossible forces, and the protectors of secrets that could reshape the galaxy itself. They had turned exile into empire, prison into paradise, and death into transcendence. The void was theirs now, completely and forever. And from within its chaotic embrace, they watched the galaxy with eyes that missed nothing and hands that could reach anywhere. 10 years had passed since humanity's exile to the void. In that time, they had built a hidden empire that surpassed every civilization in the galaxy. But on this day, deep space monitors detected something that would change everything. Scientist Zefnin of the Council stood before the emergency assembly, her silver skin pale with fear. The holographic display behind her showed images that defied understanding. Massive ships, each one larger than a space station, emerging from the dark regions near the galactic core. The vessels appeared without warning. She reported to the gathered representatives. Our long-range sensors detected them 3 days ago. They are advancing through the outer systems, destroying everything in their path. Archon Veltar leaned forward in his throne. What species builds ships of this design? Are they from beyond our galaxy? We believe they are much older than that, Zefnin replied. Analysis of their hull composition suggests technology that predates any known civilization by millions of years. These are not invaders from another galaxy. They are something that has been sleeping in ours. The display changed to show battle recordings. Council fleets engaged the strange vessels, pouring weapons fire into their dark hulls. The ancient ships absorbed the attacks without apparent damage, then responded with beams of energy that seemed to unmake matter itself. Entire battleships simply ceased to exist. They call themselves the Harbingers. Zefnin continued. Our xenolinguistics team managed to decode part of their transmission. They claim to be the galaxy's immune system, activated when technological development reaches dangerous levels. Ambassador Thulmos of the Velkan species spoke from his position among the lesser delegates. How do we fight something like this? We don't know if we can, the scientist admitted. Every engagement has ended in complete defeat for our forces. They adapt to our weapons within minutes of first contact. Energy shields mean nothing to them. They phase through solid matter at will. Our best projections suggest total galactic conquest within 18 months. Panic spread through the chamber. Representatives from dozens of species spoke at once, their voices creating a chaos of fear and desperation. Archon Veltar called for silence, but it took several minutes for order to return. What do they want? He asked. Extinction, Zefnin said simply. They appear to be automated systems, programmed to eliminate any species that reaches a certain level of technological development. They view advanced civilization as a threat to galactic stability. The irony was not lost on several representatives. The Council had spent centuries maintaining stability by suppressing advanced technology and punishing species that developed too quickly. Now they faced destruction for the very achievements they had tried to control. How long do we have? Veltar asked. They are advancing through the rim territories now, Zefnin replied. Our projections suggest they will reach Council space in 4 months. The core worlds in 8 months. Emergency plans were activated immediately. Civilian evacuations began from the outer systems. Military forces were recalled from patrol duties to form defensive lines. Research teams worked desperately to find some weakness in Harbinger technology. But as reports came in from each engagement, the situation became more hopeless. The ancient ships were immune to every weapon in the Council arsenal. They could not be outrun, could not be reasoned with, and could not be stopped. 3 months into the crisis, Ambassador Thulmos made a suggestion that seemed impossible. "There might be one option we haven't considered," he said during a closed session of the Senior Council. "What if some humans survived their exile to the void?" The suggestion was met with skeptical laughter. "The void kills everything," Veltar replied. "No ship has ever returned from that region of space. But we've detected strange energy signatures near the void's borders," Thulmos insisted. "Readings that don't match any known natural phenomenon. What if they represent artificial structures?" Zefnin accessed her research files. "There have been anomalies," she admitted. "Energy patterns that suggest controlled gravity manipulation on a massive scale. But the radiation interference makes detailed scans impossible. Even if humans somehow survived," another representative said, "what could they possibly do against the Harbingers? They were exiled for being too primitive and emotional." Thulmos thought about the humans he had known. Captain Min Jae-sung, who had faced exile with dignity. Dr. Chen, whose compassion had driven her to help species the Council deemed unworthy. Admiral Park, whose tactical genius had saved countless lives during the border conflicts. "They were exiled for being unpredictable," he corrected. "For refusing to follow orders when those orders meant letting people die. For solving problems in ways we didn't expect." The debate continued for hours. But desperation eventually won. The Council authorized a transmission toward the void, broadcasting on all frequencies in the hope that someone might hear. "To any human survivors in the void region," the message began. "This is the Galactic Council. We face extinction from an ancient enemy called the Harbingers. We formally request your assistance and offer full restoration of human citizenship and Council membership." The transmission was repeated every hour for 3 days. No response came. Deep in the bastion, Marshal Min Jae-sung sat in the war room with his senior staff. The Council's desperate message played again on the main screen, its tone growing more frantic with each repetition. "They're offering us everything they took away," Admiral Park observed. "Full membership, restored citizenship, probably territorial concessions." 10 years too late," Dr. Chen replied. "They only want us now because they're facing extinction." Min studied the intelligence reports his scouts had gathered about the Harbinger threat. The ancient ships were indeed formidable, but their technology followed patterns his people understood. Dark energy manipulation, dimensional phasing, matter conversion. All techniques that humanity had mastered during their years in the void. "What do you recommend?" he asked his advisors. "We could evacuate," suggested Engineer Liu Wei. "Take our people deeper into the void, where even the Harbingers can't follow. We could reveal ourselves and demand concessions," Park added. "Make them pay for our help. Or we could do what we've always done," Chen said quietly. "What's right? Regardless of politics." Min nodded slowly. The Harbingers weren't just a threat to the Council. They were automated systems programmed to destroy any species that reached advanced technology levels. Eventually, they would detect humanity's hidden civilization. Better to deal with them now, while the element of surprise remained. But he would do it on humanity's terms. "Send no response to the Council transmission," he ordered. "Let them think we're all dead. But begin Operation Silent Shield immediately." The room stirred with anticipation. They had planned for this possibility. A threat too great for the Council to handle alone. Hidden weapons systems came online throughout the void. Scout ships prepared to phase into normal space for the first time in years. The full might of humanity's secret empire began to mobilize. "The Harbingers won't see us coming," Min continued. "We'll fight them the way we learned to fight the void. by using their own power against them, by turning chaos into order, by surviving where survival should be impossible. As the Bastion's war machine came to life, Marshal Min looked out at the chaotic energies of the void that surrounded them. This place had been their tomb, then their home, then their fortress. Now it would be their launching point to save a galaxy that had cast them out. The Council would get their salvation, but they would never know where it came from, and they would never control it. In the darkness between dimensions, humanity prepared to emerge as the galaxy's silent guardians. The first battle happened in the Kepler system, where a Harbinger fleet was destroying the orbital stations around a Council mining world. The ancient ships moved with mechanical precision, their dark hulls absorbing energy weapons while their own beams turned matter into nothingness. Then something impossible happened. One of the massive Harbinger vessels simply exploded, torn apart by forces that Council sensors couldn't detect. Then, another. Within minutes, the entire enemy fleet was debris floating in space. The Council forces that had been desperately fighting for their lives found themselves staring at empty space. Their scanners showed no trace of whatever had destroyed the Harbingers. Admiral Kethvar of the Third Fleet sent his report with shaking hands. The enemy fleet has been eliminated. Cause unknown. No friendly forces detected in the area. Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. Harbinger fleets would advance on Council territories, engaging local defenses with their usual overwhelming superiority. Then they would mysteriously begin exploding. Their ships torn apart by weapons that left no energy signatures. Marshal Min Jae-sung watched the battles from the command center deep within the Bastion. Holographic displays showed every engagement across the galaxy, tracking the movements of both Harbinger and Council forces. His own ships appeared nowhere on these displays. Phase 7 is complete, Admiral Park reported. All Harbinger forward scouts have been eliminated. They still don't know we exist. The Voidborn humans had advantages that even the ancient Harbingers couldn't match. Their ships could phase through multiple dimensions, attacking from angles that didn't exist in normal space. Their weapons drew power directly from the dark energy that filled the universe, making them more powerful than anything the galaxy had seen. Most importantly, they understood the technology they were fighting. The Harbingers used the same dimensional manipulation techniques that humanity had mastered in the Void. Where Council weapons couldn't touch the enemy ships, human weapons cut through their defenses like they weren't there. Commander Lee So-young led the most advanced strike team, piloting ships that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Her squadron could appear inside a Harbinger vessel, plant dimensional charges that would tear it apart from within, and vanish before the enemy sensors even registered their presence. Target acquired, she reported during a raid on a Harbinger supply convoy. Beginning insertion. Her ship phased through the hull of the massive enemy vessel like it was made of mist. Inside, she found corridors filled with machinery that had been running for millions of years. Automated systems that maintained and repaired the ancient ship without any crew to oversee them. The dimensional charges were planted at critical points throughout the vessel's structure. When they detonated, they would create cascading failures in the ship's phase generators, causing it to tear itself apart. To outside observers, it would look like a catastrophic malfunction. Charges set, Lee reported. Withdrawing. Her ship phased back into normal space, just as the Harbinger vessel began to collapse in on itself. Another enemy destroyed, without leaving any trace of human involvement. Dr. Sarah Chen coordinated the larger strategy from her research facility in the Void. Her teams had spent weeks analyzing Harbinger technology, finding weaknesses that could be exploited. The ancient ships were powerful, but they were also predictable. They're following a programmed pattern, she explained to Marshal Min during their daily briefing. Advance. Engage. Destroy. Move to the next target. They don't adapt because they don't think they need to. They've never faced opposition they couldn't overwhelm. Until now, Min replied. The turning point came when human forces located the Harbinger command structure. Deep in the galactic core, Hidden within a artificial pocket dimension lay a massive facility that coordinated the entire ancient fleet. It was a structure larger than most solar systems, filled with machines that had been running since before the first species learned to make fire. Marshal Min led the assault, personally, taking a fleet of humanity's most advanced vessels into the heart of enemy territory. The journey required phase jumps through 17 different dimensions, following paths that only void-born navigators could track. The facility's defenses were beyond anything they had faced. Weapons that could destroy matter on a subatomic level. Shields that redirected attacks into other dimensions. Guardian ships that could rebuild themselves from pure energy. But humanity had spent 10 years learning to thrive, where survival was impossible. They used the facility's own defenses against it, turning its dimensional shields into weapons and redirecting its planet-killing beams back at their sources. The final battle took place in the facility's core, where Min faced the central intelligence that controlled all Harbinger operations. It was not a being in any sense he understood, but a vast machine mind that had been programmed to eliminate technological threats to galactic stability. Your species has exceeded acceptable parameters. The intelligence communicated through harmonics that vibrated through dimensional space. You must be eliminated. We were eliminated, Min replied. 10 years ago. This is what we became. The battle that followed could not have been fought by any other species in the galaxy. It took place across multiple dimensions, simultaneously, with weapons that operated on principles the Council's scientists had never imagined. Human technology, born from chaos and refined in the crucible of the void, proved superior to machines that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. When it ended, the great facility began to shut down. Across the galaxy, Harbinger ships simply stopped functioning. Their ancient programming finally interrupted. The threat that had seemed unstoppable was ended not through superior firepower, but through superior understanding. The Council never learned what had saved them. Their records would show that the Harbinger threat mysteriously ended after 18 months of devastating attacks. Some would theorize about malfunctions in ancient programming. Others would credit divine intervention. Ambassador Thulmos suspected the truth, but could never prove it. In his private communications, he recorded his belief that humanity had somehow survived their exile and chosen to save the galaxy that had banished them. But without evidence, his theories remained just that. The official Council history would record the Harbinger War as a victory achieved through determination and unity. Monuments were built to honor the species that had fallen, fighting the ancient enemy. No monuments mentioned the silent guardians who had actually won the war. In the void, humanity returned to their hidden cities and continued their quiet growth. Children born after the war learned about the galaxy their parents had saved, understanding that power without recognition was the highest form of service. Marshal Min stood once again on the observation deck of the Bastion, watching new construction projects that would expand their capabilities even further. The galaxy was safe for now, but there would always be other threats, other challenges that the Council could not handle alone. His personal terminal chimed with an incoming message. It was transmitted on an old frequency that only 3 people in the galaxy still knew. The message was brief, containing only an image and a few words. The image showed the moment when every Harbinger ship in the galaxy had simultaneously shut down, viewed from the bridge of a Council vessel. In the corner of the frame, barely visible and lasting only a few seconds, was the outline of a human ship phasing back into dimensional space. The words below the image were simple. Thank you. It was signed with Ambassador Thulmos's personal seal. Min deleted the message without responding. Some secrets were too important to acknowledge, even to friends. Especially to friends. Outside the Bastion's windows, the void continued its eternal dance of chaos and creation. Within its embrace, 47,000 humans lived and worked and planned for a future that the galaxy could never have imagined. They were the inheritors of ancient power, the masters of impossible forces, and the silent guardians of a galaxy that would never know their names. They had turned exile into empire, death into transcendence, and abandonment into the highest form of love. The Council had cast them out to die, Instead, they had become immortal. In the swirling darkness between dimensions, humanity watched over the galaxy with eyes that missed nothing and hands that could reach anywhere. They asked for no recognition, demanded no gratitude, and expected no reward. They simply did what humans had always done, even when the galaxy told them to stop. They helped. And in the silence of the void, that was enough.